Welcome to 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpotTV. It's the season finale, 12 long weeks in the Indy Pro 2000 for our well-aged, good vintage drivers. And today they're going to decide their championship around the historic and very, very challenging Nürburgring Nordschleife. A great track in world motorsport, but challenging in an open wheeler. So let's see how they get on and who is going to be this season's champion. So I'm David Haynes, joined by Stefan Schlacker, Hugo Lewis, technical director with the production and the cameras and everything. Stefan, you are a little bit closer to this circuit geographically than me. How do you think that they are going to find it in an Indy Pro 2000?
Well, David, it's pretty much just like our drivers this track. Aged like good wine. It's a challenge that will most definitely suit the Indy Pro 2000 as well, because this is quite a tail-happy car if you set it up correctly, and this will really be a fun challenge for these guys in the season finale, especially with all the bumps and the setup tweaking that you have to do in this Indy Pro 2000.
Deceptively difficult to drive on the throttle sometimes. It does like a little bit of slip angle once those tyres get warm. We've got two 5-lap races ahead of us, but this is what the schedule has looked like. We kicked it all off at Road America 12 long weeks ago. They went to Okayama, then Phoenix 2008 on the oval. The Red Bull Ring, new in this build, they were excited to go there. The Watkins Glen Hockenheim Ring we checked in on, and there was some great action there. They went to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. They went to the Chicago Street Circuit, Monza, Montreal, and they've just come off from Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway, and here we are at the Nürburgring. Calculated points: Paul Stump 387 ahead of Steve Greenwood 371, Bob Cohen 329, and Louis Cannell 305. Gets a little difficult when you factor in the drop weeks, but right now that would look like Paul Stump's championship to lose. And of course, many other familiar names in the top of the championship standings at the end there that we've seen, some for many a season, some for some newer seasons, but it's always great that every day of the year, someone turns 60 plus and can come join us in this championship. So this is what the grid is going to look like for race number 1 of 2, and as you can tell, a rolling start here on the Nordschleife. As per usual as well, Steve Greenwood is on the pole, but sharing that front row with Paul Stump. That is going to be so exciting to watch. Got Ross Addy, Donald Fitterer, Gary Bystrom, and Leif Hellberg behind them. Then the next row, Barry Hills, Ulf Olsen, Leroy Coppage, Wally Molesby, series champion many times in the past, Stefan Rostrom, the winningest driver in series history, and Ernie Cancio in 12th. Looking through the field then, Bob Cohen, Joel Martin, Dev Donnelly, JC Hay, Jerry Kerr, and Randy Shoemake. The remainder of the field is Bob Kern, Franz Brink, Robert Love, Steve O'Malley, June Moore, Greg Garris, and bringing it home is Bruce Poole, Douglas Beasley, and Peter Hellstrom. Well, they're all going to line up. We're going to get a rolling start, but track conditions are still relatively cool. A little bit of fog in the air there, Stefan, and they're not going to immediately have warm tyres.
Well, David, it is most definitely the Nordschleife, and Nürburgring without some fog, that really isn't the Nürburgring. So these guys will have a little bit of a tiny bit impaired vision, but as you can see from this onboard shot already, it really isn't gonna be a problem. And quite honestly, I don't even see any fog right now on the track here.
Maybe the helicopter was just in one of those clouds. I don't know. Definitely on the long shot can sometimes exaggerate the effect of visibility. Beautiful Porsche pace car today, as they have just a short formation lap. Once again, this is race 1 of 2. And it is 5 laps, which is not a whole lot, but actually, even for these cars, even on just the regular Nordschleife without any of the Grand Prix layout, quite a long lap. You see our format for tonight. Qualifying's already been run. We're getting ready for race number 1 now. Then a little bit of a gap before qualifying 2 for race number 2. But all eyes on the championship, all eyes on some of our championship contenders on the front row. Paul Stump, we're hope to lead us away cleanly, and he's going to try now a very early jump in this rolling start to fan out the field and kick us off racing here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. He's out front, he is away, trying to leave them in his dust.
Yeah, so a good start there. Also, Ernicancio nearly running there a little bit too loose on his brakes, but keeps it all together, still side by side. Seems though, most definitely, that we have a clean start.
Right now with Jerry Kerr, 19th in the field, Bob Kern up in front, so this is 18th and 19th right there, and already too ambitious, very high curves here for a low-slung single-seater, and that has gone straight into the wall for poor Jerry Kerr. He's trying to stay out of everyone's way, but that's going to put him dead last, potentially not a great start to this lap.
Yeah, but seems like he was able to just ever so slightly nudge the barrier and not get any damage. Maybe a little bit of toe knocked out there, but apart from that, seems like Jerry was able to keep it out the wall. Yeah, so a tiny little bit of a nudge there on the left front wheel that shouldn't even impair his handling, but that's most definitely what does the trick.
So further around the lap now, and I'm joined by Stefan, who's more able to pronounce some of these names than me, but some great corners around here and some great places that really can upset a car like this, riding aboard Randy Shoemake. A bit too much grass and just out wide past the Flugplatz there.
Yeah, easy mistake to do, especially in cold tires here on this Indy Pro 2000. So a little bit of a small mistake can lead to a big crash in the very fast triple right-hander that is the Flugplatz here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife.
That's one of those things, they would have just been in qualifying, having done their flying laps where the front tyre temperature would have been more there. It's right here on the first of 5 laps. Maybe went to turn in and it just wasn't there. Also, in the slipstream, you might have come up there with an extra 10, 15 kilometers an hour compared to in qualifying. What might have been easy flat as a solo car in qualifying could have needed a little more finesse and a little more management in the race, in the pack here. Very daunting to follow another car like Leif Hellberg is doing right now. 2 Barry Hills, 6th and 7th. The two of them starting to lose out a little bit on a pack that's forming up front. But for Paul Stump and Russ Addy and Donald Fitter and everywhere, it is pretty exciting up the front of this race still. No one really stretching out to the huge gaps that would be possible, and there's plenty of places further around the lap here where you'll see the strong slipstream of these cars come into effect as well. I'm thinking, for example, that long run past Bergwerk uphill.
Yeah, no doubt there whatsoever. I mean, the one big thing you're not allowed to forget, even though these cars might not look aerodynamically sophisticated, the aero push still is quite a thing in the Indy Pro 2000. So, a mistake we saw from Shoemake could have also just been from the wake that the cars ahead generate, but now on board with Leif Hellberg. Past Hellberg, now coming up to Klostertal and Mordkurve. You can see how much he is starting to gain on that 6th place as we have a side-by-side, maybe even into Mordkurve. That could be dangerous.
Very gutsy from Russ Addy. He's gone and taken 2nd place away, and Paul Stump in 3rd has had to back out of it. The driver with the best view of it we ride on board with right now, Donald Fitterer, and what it has done is it's put 2 seconds between these guys battling over 2nd place, and Steve Greenwood trying to run away with that lead. So he's in, I think, a Lotus Tribute car, stretching away from them as they all, with a single-seater, down on the low line, through the carousel, always so pretty.
Oh,
Barry Hills. It's been on the wrong side there.
Yeah, Barry Hills out into the woods pretty much without that Armco barrier, but that's exactly what I was talking about. Too wide into the Mordkurve. Rarely works out for both.
Yeah, very tough, very committed, and the grass will just suck you out towards the Armco and the tyre barriers there. Through one of my favourite sections, past Wipperman in this kind of section where the corners just keep flowing into each other, reminiscent of a hill climb, reminiscent of a rally stage, a lot of blind crests, and it's all about flowing the momentum and keeping it calm. Leroy Coppage, oh, that is a wild ride past the carousel and uphill, and he must have been distracted by something because that ought to be flat out there, but you see, he you get a tyre into the grass, and there just isn't space in the metre or so between the pavement and the Armco to save yourself.
Yeah, what Leroy did there, I think, is one thing that's really easy to do if you just run a little bit too wide there, coming up to the corner there, going to the outside. You can actually surf on the outside there because there's a steep drop-off to the highly banked corner. And if you sit up on that, there's no chance you're ever going to get that car back until it finds itself in the Armco barrier. And I think that's exactly what we saw as Arni Canasio spins out. I think that's a second down we see from him. My goodness.
Oh, little Austin Powers there, but you see once again how high the curbs are in some places here. You absolutely cannot ride them in this car. Now, this is revenge for Paul Stump trying to get back at Russ Addy, and it hasn't worked. Oh, and it's going to cause an incident there for 4th and 5th, I think. Paul Stump in the wall, getting on the tow hook, not happy at all. A lot of damage to 2 cars.
Yeah, unlucky bystander. That second car was there with Stump in the grass there. And yeah, on the no grip there on the grass. And who is that second car? Red and black. I can't identify.
Stump and Bystrom. But
Bystrom, yeah, he's missing.
Got Don Fitterer and Russ Addy now battling for second place. What a huge slipstream it is down that long straight. And through Tiergarten, etc. here. This is letting Steve Greenwood on lap 1 of 5 coming to the end of this lap stretch away to a 4-second lead as they battle over second. More side by side here. Stefan Rostian has made up a huge quantity of positions so far. 5 in 1 lap, and he's still trying to line up behind Ulf Olsen for another one. Another one of these drag races here. Got the tall gearing installed, so no one's hitting the rev limiter. It is a massive stock car style slipstream down that back straight.
Yeah, no doubt. It actually creates a lot of problems for these guys in different cars, especially in the slow corners. The gearing is so high that you have to use some weird or not really gears that you would be accustomed to in these sections. So it really has a little bit of a different style depending exactly where you are on track, just because of the gearbox that you're running.
So Rostian from 11th on the grid, now running 6th, right in the slipstream of Ulf Olsen for 5th as they come through. A section that has caused some problems for some other drivers already, but that's right to the apex, hoping to carry as much speed as you can here, because then it's flat out in top gear once again towards Swedenkreuz and, is it Arenberg?
That is Arenberg. They're right now in Kottenborn. That's the little dip before the Schwedenkreuz, which is this little hill that they have to drive over. And now going into Arenberg. Really awesome corner, especially in the IP2000. It's so heavily banked that you can carry so much more speed out of the corner than you would be thinking, and especially that tall curb on the exit as well helps you to really plant that rear and give that little bit extra of a grip, especially if you're a little bit sideways. It really can help your cause. But as always with these high curbs, don't overdo it, because if you do, you're most definitely gonna find yourself somewhere in the woods here in Nürburgring.
Exactly. So Steve Greenwood starting to lead comfortably. That's exactly what he needs for his championship aspirations. And when you can be comfortable, you can be smooth. And when you can be smooth, you're fast around a track like this that is intimidating in just about anything you drive and requires a lot of focus, a lot of track knowledge, and a lot of practice. Behind him, second place battle, Russ Addy and Donald Fitterer. They're starting to leave Leif Hellberg, Ulf Olsen and Stefan Rostian behind them. So easy to lock up an inside tyre there. Whatever car you drive, it always seems to happen.
Yeah, most definitely. It's one of the hardest corners to get right, no matter what car you're driving. You always, it's just such a weird turn because there's such a big drop-off as well. And you just have to be really careful and really smooth as well, because if you're not smooth, like you said, you're not fast.
Then one of my favourite corners where the traction on the exit from not quite to Bergwerk yet, but through the louder links, so important once you start coming back up the hill. we're going to see them side by side, flat out, kicking up some of the grass, and then towards the Bravery corner. It's called Bravery because, you need a little bit of a lift in most cars, but if you're going to go side by side, that is extreme bravery in this battle for second place. Russ Addy, I think, having gained second position there a lap ago, is now going to make that corner his happy place on this track and really hold on to second place through there.
Yeah, but how will that second part of the track go for these two guys, Addy versus Fitterer? I think Fitterer might have a little bit to say here about that second place in this latter part of the track, because I think that's exactly where he has the upper hand on Addy.
Addy, the season 15 champion, so into season 19 now. Been a couple seasons, but he's showing the kind of composure that was necessary to win back then. He might have even sealed his championship here at the Nordschleife in that season. Here is where you really keep flowing the speed, a lot of second gear, a lot of third gear for these cars, and a lot of blind crests, which can upset a GT car, but is even more challenging in these open wheelers. They're more averse to the curbs, they're more averse to bottoming out across some of the jumps, and we're heading towards that section where almost every car is well capable of getting four wheels off the ground. In fact, there's a couple of places in this sector. I'm thinking there's one right up here in the braking zone as well.
Yeah, exactly. Kinda want to stop hitting the throttle just as you lift off and start braking a little bit already in the air, because that gives you a real nice momentum. And pretty much as I said, Donald Fitterer, he is the faster car through this last section as we now go through the Stefan Bellof S. But just because of how well Addy places his car, Fitterer just not able to get past as of right now. But now obviously we have the very long straight from the Galgenkopf all the way to Tiergarten. This should get interesting.
Absolutely. Being the car behind is almost where you'd want to be for a long straight like this, but it's so long, you can imagine Fitterer getting around, getting ahead, and Russ Addy slipstreaming him back again. So what kind of games are they going to play underneath the gantry with a long way still to go down this straight? Russ Addy staying to the left-hand side of the road. Donald Fitterer is right down the middle, has his nose in front now, but Addy can still chop back in and get back around him again. Is he going to be able to do that? He's still holding to the left, picking up a bit of a side draft now, it almost seems, as they come underneath the gantry. They're going to be brave again in their battle for second place. Addy might just sneak it back again, still side by side approaching the braking zone. No, Russ Addy back into second. The straight is just too long. The yo-yo went out and it came back in.
Yeah, this is exactly where Donald Fitterer's philosophy is holding him back, because he is most definitely faster car, but because he's running so much more downforce than Addy, which helps him in the last part of the track, he is getting slowed down so much, he's experiencing so much drag that Addy is capable of re-overtaking him just because Fitterer has to run in clean air.
Last spots inside of the top 10 there. You saw between Bruce Poole and JC Hay. This looks like Steve O'Malley, Gene Moore, Bob Cohen. And yeah, tough to miss the purple machine of Gene Moore. Meanwhile, Bob Cohen is lining up behind all of them as they're going to complete another lap. Start lap 3 of this 5-lap race number 1. In the field still, despite this being a track that tends to spread them out a little bit with the skill gap, with the challenge, and also the high probability of mistakes being heavily punished. Another one of those curbs there for Bob Cohen. You kind of want to ride in a GT3 car but stay off in a machine like this. Gene Moore has a big wiggle in front of him, kind of checks him up a little bit to prevent Bob Cohen from attacking. But we've seen a good line across the top of the hill here, and he could be right in line to try to get around at Schwedenkreuz.
Yeah, Let's see how he is doing. By the way, a little bit of apology there. I've been getting some misinformation. Obviously, this series is fixed setup, so no different philosophies between Eddie and Fitterer as we have this draft going on. Doesn't seem like we're gonna get a pass happening here into Allenberg, even though the luck comes a little bit. But yeah, most definitely good fighting between those two.
And you've got to be so careful fighting here. There's a lot of corners you can pass, but a lot of corners that you really can't unless you very well know the driver you're fighting against. And there's many drivers who've been in this championship 10 seasons or more. They are quite often accustomed to racing around the same drivers, very familiar with each other, more of a social club than a racing league, almost sometimes it seems. 60 plus racing adventures, almost every name on the grid today, very familiar, and for a couple of seasons too as well. But you can just sense Cohen a little quicker here, just hasn't been able to take a run at more in a place where it would be possible to get around and make a clean move stick. You come to another section here where the corners just keep flowing into each other. They come through here and then quickly, flicks left and then right, and then they're into miss, hit, miss, and then into the corner where it's so easy to lock one of the brakes, and there's just no good place to pass here until you get around to Bergwerk or so.
Yeah, the problem really is that is so
in so hot. We mentioned the braking difficult there. I thought
look at the
end up in the Armco, but that front wing is very loose, very wobbly.
Yeah, he's really lucky that front wing is still on that car. Wouldn't be surprised if he's experiencing major understeer right now. But the thing I wanted to say, the problem also is not only are the corners flowing into each into another, but also it's one of the tightest portions of the track on top of that. So that makes it so incredibly difficult to pass.
To the most photo-worthy section of the track, riding the groove in the banking of the carousel, a battle for second. Donald Fitterer will not let go of Russ Addy, but it seems like in all the right places, Russ Addy has the speed and the racecraft. Again, coming towards a sector where it would need to be a big mistake for Russ Addy, for Donald Fitterer to get around. I love right towards where they're coming now at Wipperman. You go right, left, right, and you can carry so much speed through here, but it's not flat out change of direction, sometimes riding across the curves, and Russ Addy's done it pretty cleanly. He carried a bit more speed than Fitterer through there.
Yeah, so Fitterer losing out a little bit here, even though he was faster the last 2 laps. In this 3rd lap, he is starting to struggle a little bit, seemingly, through this very technical sector of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. The good thing is, there's still 2 more laps to go for Fitterer to try and make a move happen through this part of the track where, at least the last 2 laps, he most definitely was the faster car.
On Fitterer, I think you've got to give yourself another car length or so behind at Kleiner's Carousel so that you've got room to make that run or to leap and vault and try to make the move stick. So it's through here where he wants to be close, but I think he doesn't want to be right underneath the rear wing. He wants just enough space that he closes up and he has a big overspeed and he launches clear and becomes difficult to repass. This is looking pretty good. Honestly, for Russ Addy, I think he should be feeling a bit of pressure at the moment. Take a replay though, as Bob Cohen and was it Greg Garris or Jerry Kerr?
That was
Jerry Kerr. I think Kerr's come across Bob Cohen with that damaged front wing, and I think there might have been a source of surprise there, but on the live pictures, battle for 2nd and 3rd, final steps on the podium, and Fitterer is lined up in the slipstream, currently 4 kilometers an hour faster, 5 kilometers an hour faster, now almost 6 k's an hour faster down the straight. He'll be starting to walk and then power walk and then jog that gap back down, looking for 2nd place right as they come underneath the bridge. I reckon he's timed that to perfection.
Yeah, this time it should be much better, but don't forget, Eddie has maybe a chance to still get back if he would be aggressive on the last lap. So even though in this lap it worked, it might not work once again on the very last lap if Eddie is able to get past here in lap number 4. By the way, this is all happening 5.5 seconds behind the 555 of Greenwood.
Donald Fitterer needs to use some of the speed and the experience to put a bit of a gap between himself and Russ Addy before they get to the high-speed, high-slipstreaming 5th and 6th gear sections of the lap. High-speed track recorded speed I've got on my data here is Leif Hellberg at 258 kilometers an hour, so given it's a naturally aspirated four-banger for these cars, that's not bad speed.
No, it's most definitely not bad speed what you can get out of these tiny engines. That's what happened. Another issue for... And
on the replay, it was again. Earlier, it was Moore and... can't remember one of the other drivers. This is live though. The slipstream that we mentioned towards Schwedenkreuz working really, really well to keep Russ Addy in the fight. Late apex is a good apex through that corner for Donald Fitterer. And less of a photograph-worthy corner and more of a YouTube crash compilation-worthy corner when they come up the hill towards Adenauer Forst. It sneaks up on you and the corners just keep getting tighter and tighter. Once you're in trouble, it's too late to try to get out of it. But these drivers, well enough experienced, have turned enough laps here, they know what's coming.
Yeah, most definitely. These guys know what is coming. That Adenauer Forst, the left-hand kick up the hill. Probably one of the more trickiest corners on this track. I know all of them are quite tricky if you're new to it, but that most definitely will get you caught out more times than not, especially when you're practicing for the Nürburgring 24 hours.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to find the right words to describe some of the corners around here, because if you say one of the most fearsome corners, well, there's lots of them. One of the most interesting looking corners, well, there's plenty of them. It's in the same league as, you know, which Olsen sister do I find most attractive? Plenty to choose from around this circuit.
That most definitely is true, but for the fourth time in this race, they're going past the X-Mühle up the hill, a right-hander, very bumpy as well, like many of the corners here on this track, but that is probably one of the most bumpiest corner of them all, going through a left-hander just before the Bergwerk, and then to the most infamous corner of this track, it's the Lauder Links.
Exactly, and at Bergwerk there, just a little bit of banking if you hook it towards the curbing, and that will help you slingshot up here, uphill, the slipstream even more noticeable. And you saw Russ Addy trying to hold it in 5th gear as long as he could, knowing that with the tall ratio 6th gear uphill, it starts to struggle. He wanted 5th gear for as long as he could hold it. This has been his corner, his bravery corner, and he closes up car length again on Donald Fitterer. But overtaking opportunities between here and the Döringer Höhe are pretty slim, and it's still another lap to go after this one. So what could be possible? Russ Addy's in a good position to keep battling it out with Fitterer, and they've kind of stabilised their speed in relation to Steve Greenwood. He's still holding just 6 seconds or so up the road. Beautiful camera angle.
Yeah, they entered this lap with 5.6 seconds, so he did gain a little bit on them right now, but obviously with the corners, braking zones, acceleration zones, that life timing might be a little bit deceiving as it does jump up and down. We're gonna get a real good reading once they open it up once again for the long straight, and that might be... oh, that was lucky for Fitterer.
Fitterer was almost in trouble. He was really wide, and now look how close Russ Addy is to him. Is there a problem? Is there any damage for Fitterer, or was he just offline in too deep, locking up a brake or something?
Yeah, I think he just turned in a little bit too late. Was on the grass there as well on the turn-in, and he just lost the rear. Caught it perfectly, I think, off camera there, and that's why we have Eddie right on the rear wing of Fitterer, but I don't think any damage done to the 18.
You can almost see how much time Fitterer lost from that by how much Greenwood has extended his lead. 1.5 seconds or so just in that sector, basically just in that corner. now towards Beloff-esque. Ought to be pretty close to flat out in these cars, just following the correct line there. And Addy is right to the gearbox. Same drivers, reversed order from a lap ago. Addy, he's just playing with his food here, setting it up to try to be able to launch back into second place, this time down the Döttinger.
And Stefan Beloff, by the way, in these cars, easy flat out. If you're really brave, you even can take that Lotus 49 for a spin and go flat out through Stefan Beloff.
Here they are, lining up again for the fastest part of the racetrack, the longest time at full throttle, and most likely seen for a drag race and a passing maneuver, if it's to be believed. You can just see from that shot with your eyes the kind of overspeed that Russ Addy has got. 6 kilometers an hour, but right back into the slipstream, right back in goes Donald Fitterer. I think he's just gonna run out of time though, and he'll remain behind Addy. We start the final lap. Steve Greenwood has gone from pole position, led 4 laps so far, just needs to bring home one more clean lap to take a race win. Timing line is somewhere there beside the old pit lane. Greenwood has begun one final tour for race number 1 of Green Hell.
Yeah, and I think this battle will be a continuation like we have seen for the past laps. If Fitterer is able to time it right, this is gonna come down to something like lap 3 once again. Just has to time it right, has to give himself enough breathing room to Addy to make that pass happen as late as possible up the hill towards Tiergarten, and he should be fine.
Great view from Fitterer as you watch his choice of gears, you watch his steering input. Is it reactionary? Is it smooth and proactive? Well, he's in 6th gear, and I think he's been at full throttle for quite a while now, and look, that little downhill and the slipstream, and he picks up a really huge top speed towards Schwedenkreuz. Has to breathe it a little bit as he comes across the crest here, and then of course a big braking zone into the long right-hander here. Pick up a late apex, come underneath that bridge, and then just try to find the straightest line of least resistance down towards the foxhole.
A lot of people also think that the run up to Tiergarten is the fastest part of the track, but it actually isn't. It actually is that run up to Arlberg, Cotton 1, right at there. That's the fastest part of this track for any car.
Again, late apex, smoother on the throttle for Fitterer through that section. That happens a couple points around this lap here where you've got an apex that feeds into an apex, feeds into an apex. If you can get a late apex to 1, that opens you a wide entry into the next to do the same and just keep compounding on eventually getting a great run out of there. Downhill braking here. Almost 2 apexes there. Take the second one. You look backwards across the rear wing of Russ Addy in 2nd place at Fitterer in 3rd. Last lap just gone. Looks like it was personal bests for both here.
Interesting, Addy dropping into 1st gear here for that tight hairpin at Versach. That's really interesting. I don't think that's really going to help you driving, especially your stability through that, but it seems like Addy most definitely makes it work.
Not the only battle happening right now. Got Steve O'Malley and JC Hay for 11th, Dev Donnelly and Bob Cohen for 13th, and closely some other places out on the lap as well. And of course, always the risk of a solo mistake around this circuit. Momentary lapse of concentration, very, very heavily punished. That was Donnelly and Bob Cohen back there in 13th.
What happened to Fitterer? All of a sudden, nearly 3 seconds back on Addy.
On the radio, it says he had some problems with his pedals. Looks to be rectified now, but I don't know exactly where he lost that that time, but if he was having a problem with his pedals, he's lucky its car's not super damaged. This is JC Hay and Steve O'Malley, I think. So it would be over 11th and 12th. And Steve O'Malley has come from right towards the back of the grid in 22nd to be running plus 10 in 12th, but he's not the biggest mover of the race because Bruce Poole up in 9th is plus 16 positions from 25th, the very back of the grid, into 9th. So second biggest mover is Steve O'Malley right now, and he's in that slipstream of JC Hay. We know on the final lap here how valuable that can be down the Dottingahua. How many of a race have we seen decided on the last lap on the Dottingahua?
Yeah, but he has to be careful. He's right now a little bit too far away for that. He needs to not only close up right now, but he also needs to hold the gap all the way to Dottingahua so he can unleash the power and unleash the draft to climb himself that one more position.
Bob Cohen twice through the pit lane. His car is in pretty good nick now as we ride on board as we have done previously. You'll see that front wing is the right size, in the right place and correctly attached now, and he's on the fight back. He's found himself parked up behind Dev Donnelly and unable to get past so far. Carousel they go. Scraping noise is not reassuring, but it's always going to happen with these cars.
Oh yeah, the Indy Pro 2000 anyway loves to grind that on the floor. So you're always going to hear that car scrape, bump and scratch, but that's very normal for this car.
Towards a sector where it is so difficult to pass here on the last lap. Is Bob Cohen going to be able to do it? Is Donald Fitterer going to be able to do it? He just caught Russ Addy once again. You're really, at this point, psychologically, you get this far around the lap and you're thinking, let's just make it wait till the Dottingahua. But Steve Greenwood, no such concerns from pole position, leading every lap, master of the Nürburgring, if he can just make it around. Last corner, last lap, Steve Greenwood from green flag to checkered flag, and that is a great way to go about the final round for him. Fitterer hasn't been able to get close enough to Russ Addy, and they get to the checkered flag just now.
And while we are watching these two guys, they're actually now fighting for 10th place, Hay and O'Malley, because Poole, he crashed on the last lap somewhere out there between the Hohe Acht and the finish line. So a little bit of interesting development, because all of a sudden these guys are fighting for a top 10 finish.
Looking over the shoulder, and oh no. Ulf Olsen, so Poole and Olsen have both.
Oh!
You know what? I think that explains it. Are you okay? I think we've. I think Stefan has died after seeing that. See if we can resuscitate him.
My goodness! I think we've witnessed murder right there.
Came out of nowhere. It would have scared them as well. This is on the live pictures now between O'Malley and Hay, and always a little bit of a weave there from Dev Donnelly and Bob Cohen. And always a bit of a weave from Dev Donnelly. Cohen, huge speed, trying to come around the outside here. Super brave, but not brave enough to outbrake in that section. And this might even be Dev Donnelly still holding on to 10th place, but he's gone into hot. He's come across the curb. Bob Cohen, they had a little bit of contact there, but in the final corner, he's going to steal a position away. The pressure and the pressure and the pressure, and eventually Dev Donnelly cracked.
Yeah, it did not take too much in the end to force that mistake. Great. Oh my goodness. Malsby nowhere to go unsighted as well.
So So this would be more... Oh,
Who got one more position?
that's live, and that's Douglas Beasley. Of course, a big lap means it's difficult to go a lap down. It means we do have to wait a while on the checkered flag for everyone to come around and see it. The remaining cars, there's Gene Moore and a couple others. Goes Gene Moore, the purple excitement machine, and he will take the checkered flag. Sure, if many others are left. Well, eventually time runs out, but apparently for a little while still, more drivers are going to come around, and I think we can lock in the results now. It's just Randy Shoemake and a couple others out there. Steve Greenwood, though, taking the pole position, leading the whole way, setting the fastest lap, as you can see as well. He locked a good chunk of points in. I've looked at the spreadsheet, I've looked at the forum, I've done some mental maths, and I'm pretty sure Steve Greenwood has become our season champion. His first championship as well, so what a way to do it ahead of Russ Addy and Donald Fitterer. Their battle, pretty legendary to complete the podium today. They went back and forth for that spot a couple times, but in the end it is Addy ahead of Fitterer. Then Leif Hellberg, Stefan Rostian, plenty of positions gained up into 5th. Ahead of Joel Martin, Franz Brink, Steve O'Malley, JC Hay, Zev Zonnerly. In 11th there, Ernie Cancio, Peter Hellstrom, Leroy Coppage, Barry Hills, Bruce Poole, Gene Moore, Paul Stump, and Ulf Olsen, Wally Molesby, Douglas Beasley, Jerry Kerr, Bob Cohen, and Randy Shoemake, the last car to complete all 5 laps. And 1 lap down for Garris Bystrom, and Robert Love retiring a bit early in race number 1, but that's not a problem because race number 2 ain't too far away either.
No, it most definitely is not. And you know what? The good thing is about race 2, all the mistakes you did in race 1, you can't do them anymore in race 2 because you've learned from all of them.
Exactly, and it's even a brand new qualifying, a brand new clean start for race number 2, but that is still a couple minutes away. So let's talk to some of our drivers after race number 1. And who do I want to talk to first? I want to talk to Donald Fitterer. He joins us in the Race Spot commentary box. Great battle back and forth between yourself and Russ Addy there over the podium position. Plenty of respect given, but what was the problem there towards the end?
Hey guys, yeah, my pedals were acting up 3 times during the race. I lost my throttle and would hammer on the pedals and it came back, and that last one was longer than the other 2, so I was able to recover, but I didn't want to pass Russ because he's fighting for the championship, and I've only done a couple races this season.
Very rare that a racing driver's problem is solved by just pressing the accelerator harder, but if it works, I'm gonna take that advice from you. And this is, we saw the schedule at the start of the broadcast. This has got to be the most challenging track on the calendar this season. So how have you found it, and how do you think it fits in the calendar? Should it have been season finale? Should it be somewhere else? It's pretty exciting regardless.
I'd love to have it 2 or 3 times during the season. I love this track. To me, it's just, at least on my sim, and it just feels so good. And I love it. Yeah, it's a great track.
Well, you're on the podium for race number 1. Going to take the same experience, go a bit quicker in race number 2, and I don't know, maybe find some WD-40 for the pedals in between?
Yeah, I'm going to reboot the entire computer and try it again. Hopefully it won't have any issues. And yeah, I'll be there for the second one.
There you go. Push the pedals harder, Control-Alt-Delete. Have you tried switching it off and on again? Tech support, Donald Fitterer with us, and congratulations on that podium and a great bit of racecraft and battle back and forth between yourself and Russ Addy.
Hey, thanks for broadcasting, guys. Cheers.
So Donald Fitterer third in race number 1 here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures at the Nordschleife, but we have the immense privilege of speaking to our race winner, and I'm pretty sure, because I've run the numbers, and I hope you've run the numbers too, season 19 champion Steve Greenwood.
Yeah, how do you do?
I'm well today, but I don't think quite as well as you. From the pole position, leading every lap, the win, and now unassailable championship leader, I do believe.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, quite nice. And we won the team championship last week, so all round good season for us.
Absolutely, checks all the boxes. How was that race for you once you skipped away? Did your mind wander, or did you have to keep focusing on all of the little peculiarities of this famous track?
You can't let your mind wander going around here. If you let your mind wander, that's it. Your race is over, basically. It's so easy to make a mistake, as I'm sure you know. And yeah, it was difficult to not think. I'd got, particularly when it was sort of 7-8 seconds, and it was difficult not to think about being able to win. But I tried my best to concentrate on what I was doing.
Right, you start taking it for granted, and that's when a track like this is going to bite. Of all the tracks we went to, and of course some of the oval courses mixed in as well, there's obviously a huge difference between racing some of the short ovals in this car and racing the Nordschleife. Which has been most challenging, most rewarding, and most engaging for you?
Oh, good question. Well, first of all, I hate ovals. I just detest them with a passion. So those don't even register. I quite enjoyed Chicago. That was a challenge.
Absolutely would have been, I'm sure. Wall's very close there. Here around the Nordschleife, you get, an extra 2 or 3 meters before you find yourself in the Armco, but you've got a bit more grass.
Well, and you've got curbs, which obviously single-seaters don't like too much. It's okay in a GT car, but you've got to be careful of those curbs.
Absolutely. Well, now that you've got the trophy from race number 1, are we still going to see you for race number 2, or are you going to start celebrating a little early?
Oh no, my teammate needs to win the next race actually to get 3rd in the championship, so I'll be doing my best to help him out there.
Well, that'll be interesting. We look forward to seeing it in a couple of minutes, and once again, from RaceSpot, got to give you our big congratulations on, if I read correctly, your first 60 Plus Racing Adventures Championship.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Steve Greenwood, race winner and now champion with us there. But there was one other driver who held our attention throughout race number 1. So, when I can correctly grab him, should have Russ Addy, 2nd place, and some brave moves, particularly at the start there, halfway around the lap.
Yeah, thanks, David.
What was for breakfast today that you decided you were going to wake up and send it through Bravery Corner there?
Paul and I are tied for 3rd in the series, and I knew that I had to get ahead of him somehow, and luckily I slid by him, and I guess he either spun or got hit or something like that, so now I have to do as well the 2nd race.
No pressure whatsoever, but it is, a clean slate with the qualifying and then the race for race number 2. Is that just where all the focus is after this race, just with yourself and the team's championship, etc.?
Yeah, with the team, I think we're in third, but I'm third overall with Paul. So as usual, I do better when you guys are broadcasting. So hopefully I'll do one more and get first.
That'd be interesting to see. What about the track has been challenging here? I mean, you run out of descriptors for a lot of the corners, but each one of them just uniquely tormenting sometimes.
There's some of them that, if you touch the curb on half these, you lose it. And then at the top of that long uphill, that right-hander there is just, I just don't like that one. So that one I really focus on, and I lose a little time. But, you got to stay off the curbs and just hope for the best.
Well, absolutely. Did we, maybe over here, you had some words for Steve Greenwood and after that race, and obviously everyone's looked and it looks like he is now champion.
Yeah, Steve did an amazing job. I mean, he is very, very quick, and he does his training on Friday, which helps us a lot. But still, he's tough to beat.
Well, maybe if you roll your dice right and have a bit of luck on your side, you might just be able to do it in race 2.
We'll see. I'll give it my best shot.
I'm sounding more optimistic than you. Thanks for joining us, Ross, and go well in race number 2.
Thanks, David. Hope to talk to you after the next race.
Delightful. 2 podium getters, 1 winner, and now champion in Steve Greenwood after race number 1. Very exciting, but also very, very challenging around this circuit, the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That's just half of the action, though. So we're going to take a little break here on RaceSpotTV, and when we return, we're going to have qualifying and race number 2 here. You heard it from the drivers. They've got their eyes on that battle for third in the championship. Russ Addy up against Paul Stump. It's gone well for Addy in race number 1. Paul Stump might be back with a vengeance for the next 5-lap race. Stick with us. We'll be back in 8 minutes or so with qualifying and race number 2. Well, it's time for the final race of the season in 60 Plus Racing Adventures. It's race number 2 tonight at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Qualifying will shortly get underway before they jump into another 5-lap race. For the drivers who maybe made a mistake, got collected, had any other kind of problems in race number 1, this is their opportunity for redemption, because championship-wise, it's the points of their best result of the night that go towards the championship. We heard after race 1 what Russ Addy and Paul Stump need is an improvement over their race number 1 performance, that 3rd place in the championship. Doesn't appear like anyone is going to be able to catch and surpass Steve Greenwood. He is going to be our season champion. But teams-wise and some of the other classifications, there is plenty at stake. Just wrapping up the warm-up session now before they get into qualifying. And where do they start? Oh yeah, you start on the Dordingerhöhe for qualifying, don't you? So 10 minutes will allow them to get a lap in.
Yeah, you're gonna start exactly on the entrance of the Touristenfahrten. That's where those cars will be lining up for their qualification run. And obviously timing starts right at start-finish, so not much time to warm up your tires, which will be also quite crucial. Who can get their tires best to temperature in that short run up to the start-finish line to have optimal tire temperature right at the beginning of the lap.
So typically the drivers get the opportunity to set more than one lap in the 10-minute qualifying session, but here at the Nordschleife, 10 minutes means it's kind of a one-lap shootout. All that drivers exiting the tourist pits, as you say. And I can see Bob Cohen, for example, already weaving furiously, trying to get that temperature into his tyres before he hits the start of the timing line. I said furiously, it's a little more relaxed than that, more than some others are doing. Just the lateral movement, trying to get the temperature in, trying to find the confidence before he embarks on a big old trip around the lap that he's hoping is going to put him somewhere, maybe in the top 3 rows or so.
Yeah, I think he started in the 4th row in the first round, so that most definitely would be a great improvement for him already as he dives his way through Hatzbach.
Love this section of the lap. Bit of banking to help him through here, and where you might often ride across these curbs in some other cars, Bob Cohen says, no, I want to live. And now it's all about carrying the speed off of here. You know that this is your one and only qualifying shot. You can push really hard, try to set a good lap, but any mistake would see you starting from the back of the grid without a qualifying time. So all of the drivers absolutely with that in the back of their mind, balancing exactly how hard they want to push, how many tenths they're looking for, and how committed they want to be in this qualifying shootout for race number 2.
Yeah, and even without the slipstream, he's getting quite close to the top of that 6th cube Bob Cohen is. So that 32 running very nicely through that first sector of the track. Already about a 5th of the track is behind him.
What was that fastest lap in race number 1? It was it 6 minutes 30 or 7 minutes 30?
I think it was 6 minutes 30. I can't tell you for sure right now.
Just needed something to gauge approximately what was going to look like a good time in this qualifying session, and also how much leeway the drivers were going to have to squeeze a lap into the 10 minutes. The answer being they didn't need to be in a giant rush to start their lap at the start of the qualifying session. A minute or two's leeway still allowed in that, but definitely not enough time to set 2 flying laps. Bob Cohen ought to be flat out-ish as he approaches Miss Hit Miss, another corner with an English and a German name. He held second gear through Versifen there though. from going a little wide in turn number 1, really found a lot more confidence further through the lap here, quite committed, quite fast, and it's going all the places he wants it to at this point. Another corner where it's easy to get in a little hot, get a little wide, but the exit is so critical. Tries to find that banking at the apex there and does it pretty well. This is looking good so far for Bob Cohen. No big sketchy moments, but also carrying speed and placing the car where's necessary.
Yeah, especially in Bergwerk, that is such a tricky corner to get right in qualifying. If you've never done qualifying here at the neighboring Nordschleife, I can most definitely tell you that right-hander of Bergwerk, it feels like it goes on forever until finally that apex shows up.
No worries with the commitment from Bob Cohen through there. Then, after a long time with the throttle open, it's time to brake and downshift and turn it in, and he did grab a bit of first gear there, just looking for more punch immediately off the corner and fourth, and then diving it in. Oh, I was worried it was going to push out wide through the carousel there. Nothing more embarrassing than losing that low line and having to slide up and do the walk of shame the long way around that corner. Eventually made it stick where he wanted.
Yeah, was lucky, but he lost a little bit of time because he also couldn't get the left-hand tires down below the banking, and that really helps you to rotate the car around, grab it around, and yeah, really be fast in that corner.
I went a little wide through Vipperman, but he's gathered it together elsewhere. We got Brunischen and Ice Curve here now, I think. We saw that curb on the exit there can be particularly fatal in these cars. A late apex here, and he gets it, carrying speed in second.
Yeah, Pflanzgarten now the very fast uphill right-hander, deceivingly left-hander right there at the top of the hill. Kleiner Sprunghügel now, which feeds right into the Steffen Bellofes. Had a little bit of a mistake there, Bob Cohen. Had to lift off the throttle, grab a little bit confidence back again, as he now enters Galgenkopf and Schwalbenschwanz.
What about through the mini carousel? That looks just about right there. Maybe carried a little bit more speed, but again, it's a corner that's also easy to get wrong if you end up on the wrong side of the banking and don't find the grip you were hoping to find. Really holding the right-hand side early and then opening it up. And hope that his throttle pedal works better than we had for Fitterer, because he's got a lot of time now where he's looking for 100% throttle.
Yeah, and this is also a very deceiving time right here, contemplating what did you do good, what did you do bad in your lap. And especially if you come to the conclusion that you have done a little bit too much bad, you're all gonna try to make it better at this uphill chicane.
Well, some other drivers are coming around to complete their laps as well. Times are going to start hitting the board. Where is Bob Cohen's dart going to land? We're looking now 6:32, 6:33, 6:34. So could have been quicker, but 6:35 is not bad. Russ Addy's gone on the top with a 6:31, and a lot of other drivers coming through the final sector now as well. He's going to keep going, but he's not going to have time, I wouldn't think, to set another lap. Depends if it's a hard cut at the end of qualifying, actually. That 6:31 right out of the gate, though, not bad from Addy.
Yeah, for long qualifier, it is a hard cut at the end. If this would be open qualifying, we would have another attempt by everybody. But since we do have close qualifying, 7 o'clock qualifying, everybody's only getting one attempt. What can Steve Greenwood do? He is getting ready to finish this lap, and it's a 6:30.249. Not good enough for
Just
Paul.
a 10th behind Paul Stump, who we heard really needs to improve in race number 2 if he's going to take third in the championship. Barry Hills, Dev Donnelly, etc. are out there as well, but it's already looking a little bit interesting. Ernie Cancio slots in to 9th, and it is still about 5 or 6 cars, even more, basically 10 cars without a qualifying time at this point. Rear got really loose there for Carl Bogle.
Yeah, and a few cars.
Again!
Oh, yeah, really
Not
on
a
edge.
happy car.
Really on edge, that 76 for some reason, and you know, a few cars that are out there right now, they're not even gonna finish this qualifying lap, because in 1 minute time they're not gonna be able to make it around the next half of this track.
Yeah, even Carl Bogle here, you think, is still more than a minute away from the checkered flag. Everyone else I'm seeing, JC Hay and Ulf Olsson without qualifying times have already parked it. Donald Fitterer has already parked it. That's interesting. He was hoping to be on the podium again, I would have thought. But he's going to have no qualifying time. Leroy Coppage and Dev Donnelly aren't far enough around the lap, and I don't know if Robert Love ever left the pit lane for qualifying, so he's looking like just going to be 19 qualifying times. Paul Stump, no one's going to be able to dislodge him from the top. Really, really close between himself and Greenwood, especially when you take into account how long the lap is here. Percentage terms, absolutely nothing in it between Stump and Greenwood for that pole. Greenwood's still going to have consecutive front row starts, but it's not going to be consecutive poles. And that is the end of qualifying. Lock in the grid for race number 2. They're about to get going for the final race of the season in 60 plus racing adventures, and Paul Stump is gonna lead them, sharing the front row with Steve Greenwood. Greenwood went really early in race number 1. What is Paul Stump gonna do? Jump early or keep the field waiting? We'll find out. The row behind them, Ross Addy and Leif Hellberg, Gary Bystrom and Barry Hills. Bob Cohen, Wally Molesby, Stefan Rostron starting out in 9th, and Ernie Cancio completes that top 10. Douglas Beasley and Joel Martin, then Randy Shoemake, Bruce Poole, Bob Kern, Jerry Kerr, Peter Hellstrom, and Sheen Moore, and I think Michael Bailey, the last driver with a qualifying time. Then comes some interesting names. Donald Fitterer, Leroy Coppage, Ulf Olsson, some drivers we saw perform pretty well in race number 1. They are going to have either an easy time or a tough time cutting through the field in this second race. We'll see how they go, but there's always the potential for carnage when you start that deep in the field and you need to move your way forward. We've got Robert Love, Carl Bogle, Deb Donnelly, and JC Hay. 26 cars for the final race. Okay, now it looks a little more overcast than race number 1, Stefan.
Yeah, it does look a little bit more overcast, but I think it should still be either mostly cloudy or partly cloudy, so these guys are either way going to have a little bit improved grip because of lower track temperatures than they just had in race number 1. And you know what? If you want to look out for a driver that is going to come through the field, I think all your eyes and all your attention should be on Donald Fitterer. Remember, he was fighting for 3rd place, 2nd place even just a minute ago, so starting from 20th, I think he is gonna be the guy to watch to maybe even be able to get himself back inside the top 5.
Pace car's gonna start bringing them up to speed in a second here. There it goes. It finds gear, and so do all of our drivers. And you can see Steve Greenwood on the left there, immediately searching for some revs and some brake temperature and a little bit of tyre temperature before we just make our way through the final sector here and get racing. 25 to 26 made it to the grid here. Paul Stump, pole, looking to match Ross Addy's 2nd place or better it in race number 2. Let's see what happens there, but it's going to be him to control the field when the pace car pulls in, decide exactly when to launch this race into life. 60 plus racing adventures. 2x2 as we come to the Nordschleife pit entry, and already on the power for Paul Stump. The minute that pace car pulled in, he decided he wanted to stretch them all out single file. Not a bad idea for the race start here. Still too wide further back in the field, but good launch from Paul Stump. Steve Greenwood's come along with him, and Russ Addy with them as well. Stefan Rostian up in front of us as we ride on board with Douglas Beasley. Rostian trying to take a look at Wally Molesby, but we saw the carnage that can happen trying to pass through the Hudson back on lap 1. You're better off trying to keep your nose clean, keep your car clean, and wait a little bit. Interesting view from Cancio as well.
Yeah, and Beasley was really lucky there out of Sabine Schmidt's corner, because he got really loose the second he went off the throttle to let these two guys ahead of him fight it out a little bit. So cold tires a real issue right now for these guys.
At least for them, the sun has come out. 20 degrees Celsius in the air, 23 on the track. Could warm up across this race. Top 5 still run in the order that they qualified. Behind them, Cohen jumped ahead of Barry Hills, and then after that, the rest of the top 9 are still running in the order that they qualified, single file, but we come towards one of the best initial places to overtake, towards Schwedenkreuz and maybe down the inside at Arenberg. This is all behind Randy Shoemakers. He leads 12th, Bruce Poole and Bob Kern behind him. Bit of side-by-side there, behind. And someone's on the wall already. Is it Ulf Olsen? It is. Well, tough start to the final race of the season for Ulf Olsen.
Yeah, not the start. Like, probably did hit the grass right there. Yeah, oh my goodness. He completely missed Arenberg Schwedenkreuz there.
Damage to Paul Stump's lead. 7/10 and shrinking at the moment as Greenwood and Russ Addy try to close in on him.
Oh, on the grass.
Yeah, grass line through there for Bob Kern, but he got it back onto the paved stuff just in time.
Great save there. I did not expect that car to come back onto the pavement in any safe manner, so very great job by, I think that was Kern there, number 6, to keep that car under control, unlike Gene Moore.
Yeah, a very, very stark contrast there to show a little mistake might be recoverable, a big mistake is not. Paul Stump has just made a little mistake that has seen Greenwood and Russ Addy close him up as they then come through Lauderlinksen towards Bergwerk. A place where we've seen some of these drivers aren't scared to attack. Russ Addy is in a good spot to pick up a good slipstream, multiplied by the quite steep uphill nature from pulling out the chest of drawers in the memory bank. I think it's Klostertal. Russ Addy round the outside. He's got one. Is he looking for two? He's going to get boxed out. He can't take the lead, but he will slot into second place. Brave stuff around the outside of newly crowned champion Steve Greenwood. Russ Addy is on a mission because now it's him and Stump up the lead. It's winner takes all for third place in the championship between them. Whoever finishes ahead on the road is going to get it.
Yeah, but also who was that in the back that had a huge off? Going into Klostertal, that was a big wreck in the background as we saw these guys go side by side.
Definitely is a problem somewhere for Bob Cohen. Gary Bystrom's in fifth though. Helberg in fourth. They've come through the carousel and now into one of my favourite sections of the lap. Fitterer's had a problem though. He's been charging up through the field and now he's caught some grass and some Armco on the way up the hill. This is the battle pack he was part of with Martin and Coppage and Rostian and...
Yeah, just surfed there once again on the lip between the tarmac and the grass there on Fitterer. But I think that shouldn't have knocked out his toe, so Donald most definitely still good to go.
Is the whole nose loose for Bruce Poole, or have I slipped something funny in my coffee today?
I think it just looks that way for Poole. Should still be good to go. Yeah. I don't see any issues on that 57.
Okay, well, he's definitely keeping the pressure on Randy Shoemake for 10th place here, and some of those problems we saw in the background for them, including Fitterer, has let these two break clear of what was 4-5 car battle. See him in the background there. Martin, Coppedge and Roastron's lost out some spots who have been back there in 14th, but he might well be able to recover on that one. Don't remember seeing a problem for Roastron unless he was one of the slow cars that Fitterer was trying to avoid.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, or he maybe got hold up by one of the slow cars, as there's a car standing in the pit, and that was also a red car. So we had a little bit of it coming together there as well out of the carousel. Another two cars spinning.
Tough break gain for Jerry Kerr. There's a couple to look at here. So through the little carousel, and Fitterer was nowhere to go in that one. Said it's deceptive. Clonus Carousel just as dangerous, if not more, than the regular carousel. That led Jerry Kerr to be side by side, and that's where I think that other contact ensued. This is another battle again. Poole has managed to get around Shoemake for 10th using the big slipstream down the Dodingahua. Up front though, change because Russ Addy's gone back to 3rd. Greenwood back into 2nd. Paul Stump holding on to the lead. So in that top 3 battle, they did have a change. Oh.
Yeah, Jerry Kerr, nowhere to go, has to avoid the car, goes on the grass and spins it out. Looks really clumsy, but in reality, Kerr, nothing he could have done different.
Driver off in front of them, and they were kind of going too wide as well, and it is a narrow track in places like that. Ryan out of options. This is your top 3. Stump from Greenwood from Addy. A little bit of space, but through this sector, it will all close up as Greenwood will slipstream towards Paul Stump. Russ Addy will follow behind him. Bystrom has gotten around Leif Hellberg for 4th and 5th there as well, so good battles up the front at the minute.
Yeah, and I think we just had it coming together between Beasley and Cancio, because both of them all of a sudden in pit lane. So I think we had another 2 cars just drop out of this field. And they were fighting for good positions as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, super close to the grass there on that angle for Russ Addy as he carried as much speed as he could uphill and across the crest. And still managed to navigate the ever-tightening serpentine sequence of corners there. Certainly no shortage of trees at this track, especially if you're trying to look from the helicopter.
No, most definitely not. And it also makes it really hard for turning points to find as well, because you have so little reference points. Because wherever you look, there is just trees, no real landmarks anywhere around this track. So it really makes difficult a learning practice for anyone to try and master the Nordschleife, even on just sections at a time.
Addy would have been, I think, beyond brave and bordering on stupid if he tried to take that look down the inside of Verzyfen, but he's all across the mirrors of Greenwood, who might be playing a little bit of rear gunner for Paul Stump in this one. Let's wait and see. This is where Addy's been pretty strong and also pretty fearless. Gets balked a little bit at the apex there, but we know how strong the slipstream is here.
Yeah, well, let's be perfectly honest here. If you weren't here for race 1, Greenwood has already clinched the championship title, and he did say that he might play a little bit of team play tactics here for Stump to get that third place away from Eddie.
Hold your breath. Here comes the action down the inside. No lift from Greenwood, and he's going to pay for that. He's in the Armco. Tried to hold it around the outside, but that would have been extra brave, and he has clouded that Armco at speed. Very sharp angle on the way in, but I think that suspension has given up. Once Greenwood is in the grass, no saving it.
Now, and you can see how much that steering wheel has been knocked sideways from that impact.
I believe the locals would have called that kaput.
Yeah, most definitely. Not only kaput, but also probably ready for that suspension in the very end.
Makes it a straight duel between Stump and Addy, and it gives a free spot to Gary Bystrom and Leif Hellberg. Looking at them briefly there, once Bystrom's gotten himself ahead, he's starting to just streak away in this one. Didn't have a good race number 1, so to find himself in 3rd place now, lap 2 of 5, and hoping to just stay clean, could come through. Memory serves, didn't really look his fault in race number 1. One of those incidents where you just didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, most definitely didn't have anywhere to go. Innocent bystander in that, as we have Eddie spun around.
Oh, Russ Addy pushing hard in 2nd place. Had a problem and some damage. Wow, more free positions for Gary Bystrom and Leif Hellberg, and another driver from our top 3 falling away. It's that curb again for poor Russ Addy, and then he's accidentally reversed it into the Armco as well.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been able to save that, as we come back to the number 3, who Shoemake seemed to also come from an off-road experience there on the outside of YouTube corner, as you can also call it in English, a Brünchen that is. So lots of people getting a little bit too aggressive there in the 2nd race with all the curbs.
Bit of complacency can breed some expensive repair bills potentially, or a lot of time lost on pit lane, one or the other. Bruce Poole and Lero Coppage battling each other. Michael Bailey, JC Hay in a bit of a battle as well. Right here, Bruce Poole and Coppage. Once they come over the crest there, ought to be flat out down the hill and then gripping up along the Dodingahua. Coppage in the slipstream for Poole, who's all the way to the left-hand side of the track at the minute. Oh no, this has been especially bruising. Deeper in the field, they are side by side for 5th place here. Coppage has come from 21st on the grid, now has his nose in front to be scored 5th position.
Yeah, it has been a very great race thus far for Coppage, and he makes that pass happen very easily. No comeback, it seems like, for Poole, as we have a few more drivers who found themselves stuck somewhere in the landscape.
Yeah, pretty punishing race number 2. It's just beginning lap 3, and we've got 11 cars that have stayed out of wall so far.
Oh no!
That was JC Hay. And it gets a bit worse.
Oh, you weren't lying there.
And then the two of them, entangled here, seemed to be difficult to separate and get on the tow truck, because I had it in the corner of my eye, and found themselves stuck in the Armco there, canoodling for quite a while before either of them budged.
Yeah, well, either that or they weren't willing to get out of their cars because they were still occupied with arguing at who was at fault for that crash.
Might have been a Bottas-George Russell situation, and they were waving their arms and all sorts of gestures there. I don't know. Didn't actually hear anything over the radio, and typically a lot of the drivers in this league are very polite.
That sounded like a crash there in the foreground through Flugplatz. I heard some tires squealing right there. Or am I starting to get crazy? Either way, race is still going on, still loads of cars are going on around at this track. But we seem to have lost pull here a little bit from Coppage, really giving that 16 a great run for its money, and it's most definitely responding to how Coppage is driving that 16 in this second race right now.
Always going to happen given the race and the qualifying format that it's so easy with one lap to have just a tiny mistake or a tiny off track that means you start deep in the grid. So if you can keep clean and be fast, well, Coppage is well and truly on the way to being the biggest gainer, the hardest charger in this one, plus 16 so far. Looking forward from Bruce Poole to Coppage, and then Coppage has got another 2 seconds or so to the next position of Barry Hill, so I don't think he would give up just yet on that one either. Miss hit miss becomes more like hit hit miss on that onboard. Donald Fitter has taken some repairs, he's back out on track and in 12th, and huge closing speed on Carl Bogle. He'll get around and back up into 11th.
That car of Bogle doesn't seem it has a straight rear wing, so I think that's where that overspeed came from also. Seems like that left-hand side of the front wing is looking 100% right as well. So either way, Carl Bogle seems to be struggling a little bit out here today on this track.
Indeed. Paul Stump with a handy little lead ahead of Gary Bystrom. Stump set the fastest lap of the race last lap with a 6:30.5, well eclipsing what everyone else was capable of. Next fastest lap was, I think, the 33 from Bystrom. So good stuff from Stump.
Yeah, Stump most definitely doing all that he needs to do to clinch that third place in the championship standings. Doing a really good job keeping that 54 alive. Right now, 2.5 laps done. I think I saw the Swiss flag there on that car as well. So, very great job either way. And if he continues that, he's most definitely going to be able to secure that third place for himself.
Yeah, teammates with Steve Greenwood, and they got what appears to be a combination Swiss flag Union Jack. So I've got to imagine that's their sort of team combination there. In a sort of Lotus tribute as well, so a little bit going on to decipher on that one, but all makes sense.
You know what, I really have to say on Stump's car, I didn't look at the side pod, I actually looked at the name which he also has there, and I didn't spot that big Swiss flag Union Jack combination on his side pod. So a little bit of an interesting part there that I wasn't able to see that, as Ruskin maybe gonna be able to get that 6th place away from Poole after Poole made a mistake there through Brünchen. Big puff of smoke, probably dust there from the gravel track after going too wide.
Down in the blind corner, top of the crest here, hoping to be flat out all the way towards Galgenkopf, etc. Right with him, big slipstream, but not a place you really want to pass. You're waiting until after this sector and onto the Dodinghur. This for 9th and 10th position, I think, right here.
It's actually for 5th and 6th.
So it is. It is 5th and 6th.
Yeah, for
How
some
did I read
reason,
that wrong?
Poole seems to be really struggling right now. Something does not seem to be right with that Mazda up ahead of Stefan Ruskin. So this should hopefully, in his point of view, be easy snacks down the long straightaway.
Held out of the slipstream for a second, ducked in, picked up a whole lot of speed as evidenced by the shift lights in 6th gear on the steering wheel, and around to the right he goes Still holding it wide, and I think he's going to take that one pretty easily, put himself into the top 5. Call that a sealed deal. Up into 5th he goes.
Yeah, so 2 laps to go until Ruskin can get himself that 5th place secured. I don't think that Poole will have many answers for the question that Ruskin is gonna ask him right now. So, as you can already see, Ruskin about a second away from Poole, and that gap is only gonna increase.
Absolutely all a game of confidence here around the Nordschleife. When you've got it, you go faster, you find yourself putting the car in the right place to go faster, yet still. Bruce Poole driving within the lines, driving on paved sections, but just not able to carry the same speed through a lot of these places that the winningest driver and multiple time champion is able to do. Though he was a little wide across the top of the hill there.
Yeah, I wonder if Ruskin had a little bit of a slide there coming over the hill, especially that first apex of Flugplatz. He can get quite easily loose there in Pro Mazda, so maybe he did get that bump there a little bit wrong, and that's why he was so wide in the end, had to correct the slide or something. But as you can see, it only did cost him a little bit of time, and soon he's gonna start to fly away again.
First left-hander in some other cars, you'd want to launch across that curb, but not in the Indy Pro 2000. Now, Jim Moore and Ulf Olsen, both of them have been through the pit lane once. Both of them have been on the tow hook once, but it meant that they've ended up in a similar place and battling each other. More in the purple machine and be right on board with Ulf Olsen. Could almost be textbook to what we've seen previously down this straight. Got himself almost the whole car ahead now, and a little more, so Ulf Olsen into 12th.
Yeah, and unless somebody has a big mistake and needs to tow their car, I think that's as far as Olsen will go, because the gap to 11th place is already nearly a full minute. So yeah, Olsen, I don't think he's really gonna get to cone in these next 2 laps.
I'd say that's pretty fair. Based on pace though, I wouldn't rule out Donald Fitterer being able to close the 30 seconds to Jerry Kerr in 8th, and he was almost 15 seconds faster on the last lap. Fitterer is second fastest man on track at the minute as well, with a lot of ground to try to gain.
You know what, I have to say it, I have to admit it, Poole, he's holding on better to Ruskin than I honestly expected. It's still only about 2 seconds. The gap, never mind, he just spun.
Oh, he might have beached it on the curb now as well. He has got no drive.
No.
Bruce Poole, lazy little spin, trying to put the traction down. Now got the rear wheels off the ground. That car is going nowhere without any help. What have you done to him, Stefan? But also, that was the corner we'd seen some drivers be undecided did they want first or second gear. Bruce Poole, he's got it in second when the rear goes around, and then this is where he gets himself into trouble.
I take no blame for that whatsoever.
I don't care if you're taking it, I'm assigning it. Paul Stump will want to avoid. 12-second lead in his pocket. He still holds the fastest lap of the race. He was fastest last lap. And he doesn't need to be super quick, but if he's being consistent, then the lap times will still flow for him. Hellberg second and Barry Hills in third. It'll be an entirely new podium compared to race number 1 if they finish in the order that they run right now.
But yeah, to conclude what I wanted to say about Poole there before he spun out, I honestly was surprised at how well he was holding up with Ruskin, with a car that most definitely did appear a little bit of damage because he always was struggling out and through corners. So yeah, point proven right there that he was most definitely struggling with his car, which seemed to have some kind of problem. And normally that in the Pro 2000 wouldn't really spin out like that if it would be a car without any problems.
Start the final lap. Here comes race leader Paul Stump. But quite a long final lap it will be for him still. After the white flag before they have to unfurl the checkered flag. .81 kilometers, if the iRacing statistic for this layout is to be believed. A little longer if he goes the long way around at the carousel. Bob Cohen. Okay, that's must be a bit of a gimme there from Robert Love, because you would not normally find yourself overtaking in that particular spot, but up into 9th. Quite rapidly goes Bob Cohen. Of all the drivers who've had to make a run through the pit lane for their repairs, looks like Jerry Kerr is currently the best placed in 7th, and Donald Fitterer, and then Bob Cohen we just saw going up into 9th.
Yeah, but I think Kerr only had to drive into pit lane. Fitterer, if I remember correctly, he actually did tow his car back to
just
pit
after
lane.
Klein's carousel, so
yeah.
He would have had a shorter tow than some others.
Yeah, but that still is, I think, a 3 or 4 minute tow, if I remember correctly. So Fitterer still tow and up to a P8. That is a really good result.
Car's been on the tow hook, been repaired, and he's still gained positions from where he started on the grid, down in 20th. Fitterer, of course, another one of those drivers without a qualifying time. Not enough purple race cars. Too many black race cars like our race leader, but very reflective purple for Gene Moore. Distinctive and easy to spot.
Yeah, that car also not looking 100% correct on driving, as he tried to turn in for Galgenkopf. He had to even give it a quick left-hand correction to not lose the car under lifting the throttle conditions. So most definitely it seems like these guys, either by nature or by design, struggling a little bit more than in that first race.
Regardless, still hunting down Joel Martin in front, and then getting within range to pick up that slipstream, and that is like compounding interest in your bank account. You're closing up at a couple kilometers an hour, so you get closer, so you're in a stronger slipstream, so you close up faster.
Yeah, I did get him under 6/10 of a second right there, even 5/10 of a second, because a very slow first chicane for Martin did really lift out the throttle there to be extremely safe. though. Martin very much under pressure now to lose that 12th place to Gene Moore. Oh!
Very good avoiding action from behind as well. Gene Moore doesn't want to get caught beached on that curb, but in response he's reversed it into the Armco, and that rear wing is less than perfect. So just a little aggressive through turn 1, and they've just started the final lap. Look how much further around leader Paul Stump is. That's wow, like two-thirds of the way around the lap already. Just coming through Vipperman now, I think. Yep,
that is 3 minutes 40 of a 7 minutes and 30 lap, give or take. So that is a lot of time. Either way you look at it, but a very good race thus far by Paul Stump, and hopefully he can continue this good run and finish it all off with a win in the last race of the season.
Yeah, and if it's been all clean so far for him, he might get those bonus points for 0 incidents as well, and that could maybe even end up being the tiebreaker between himself and Ross Addy. This would be a good finish and a good haul in the final round. Not looking like he's going to break his fastest lap of the race, and not looking like he needs to push that hard, because he's still just walking out the advantage to Hellberg and Barry Hills. We saw Cohen, I think, close in on this particular battle, but here is Martin and Wally Molesby. Wally Molesby gets waved on by.
Yeah, Joel Martin most definitely picking his battles, and he isn't picking any of those up right now. Seems to just be very happy to get to the end of this race here, and I can most definitely understand Joel's thinking right there, especially since he doesn't seem very comfortable behind that Cosworth wheel.
Not everyone can be a ringmeister. It's a fact of life that this is just one of those tracks that really clicks for some people, and other people struggle through it. It's a little polarizing compared to some other shorter and more easily learnable circuits. Problem here for Leif Hellberg potentially, but no problems for Paul Stump, as he is going to take the win in race number 2 to lock it out for him and his teammate, and also really solidify his championship position late on. Next to the line is probably going to be Barry Hills, but where is all of this time going for Leif Hellberg? He hasn't blown the motor, is he? He's going to lose out on the podium, because through goes Coppage. Reska not far behind either. What is the problem there?
That looked like he was waiting for Coppage, because as soon as Coppage passed, he picked up speed again. Very interesting.
Well, paint me surprised. Barry Hills is going to get second. Leo Coppage is going to get third. Douglas Beasley hunting down Gene Moore. And that aerodynamic damage there for Moore is hurting him. But Beasley doesn't know which way quite to go here in this battle.
Yeah, I don't think he realizes how damaged Moore is with that rear wing just on top speed alone. And it really, I think he wants to wait for the long stretch, because maybe he also realized right at the beginning that maybe not so smart to overtake, because you're gonna get that position anyway really easily once you hit that.
Ought to be a bit of a gimme on the Dodinghur, the way that the speed looks like between these two.
Obviously has to be careful to not bin it right here.
Absolutely. Shoemaking 6th has seen the checkered flag. Next is going to be Kerr, and then Fitzerer. And of course, we're watching these here, 14th and 15th. You know, when a vulture just circles a wounded animal waiting for its time, it's kind of Beasley Beasley here, knowing what a long straight there is left in the final sector and that his car has a bit more straight line speed.
And the good thing is he can really take that top because he's not gonna catch Martin. Even if he would have overtaken through Kesselchen, or close to Toll rather, he would still not be anywhere close to Martin in the end. And Hallström, he is about 40 seconds back on these guys, so as far as these guys will go.
Problem for Joel Martin there, potentially, but we're still watching this as they are going to line up on the Dodingerhur in not too long. Beasley behind Moore.
Oh,
No, they're not. He's going to go for it early. They're going to make contact. Was it necessary? It's not, and they're both in the Armco on the final lap. Gene Moore, huge damage.
And I think that might have even been for Moore. I don't think he can continue with that.
Gonna try. Let's take a look.
Oh yeah, that tire's gone. Oh, and then another hit. Insult to injury right there for Gene Moore.
Gonna take a lot for Hallström or Vogel to catch him. Limping that thing around, looking for the checkered flag. Sure doesn't look so bad in a straight line. It just seems like maybe the wheel's a bit down on one side, and he's got to be so careful when he taps on the brakes that it doesn't cause the car to lurch to one side, and he is going to take the checkered flag now. Hallström and Bogle are still going at it on the Dodingerhur here, actually. Wait, it was... Yep. Bogle's gotten in front. Hallström slipstreaming back. Maybe, or holding position, hard to know. Closing it in just a little bit. Is this going to be the perfect timing from Peter Hallström to get past at Tiergarten? It's going to be about who's brave on the brakes, and the answer is not Peter Hallström initially. These guys are going to be some of our last drivers to take the checkered flag. There you go. They made it close, even if they were a while away from the leader. Let's look at those results now that they've been locked in and the drivers have crossed the finish line. Paul Stump to take the win. In the end, it's scored as 28 seconds ahead of Barry Hills. Lero Coppage on the podium after Lee Hellberg gave it up on the final lap. Stefan Roskin still for 5th. Then Randy Shoemake, Jerry Kerr, Donald Fitterer from 20th up into the top 10, back out again, and then back to 8th. And Bob Cohen, Robert Love complete the top 10. And we had in 11th, Ulf Olsen, Wally Molesby in 12th, then Douglas Beasley, Bruce Poole, Joel Martin, Gene Moore, Peter Hallström, Carl Bogle, the last driver on the lead lap there. Gary Bystrom, basically a retirement, same too for Russ Addy, and the rest of the drivers on the list here, like Steve Greenwood, I guess he got to celebrate early maybe there, and JC Hay, Ernie Cancio, Michael Bailey, Bob Kern, and Dev Donnelly. Before we go interview some of our podium after the race 2 here, give me some thoughts on the race that we've had so far, Stefan.
Well, David, I can most definitely tell you that this has been a attrition field, especially the second part of the race. These drivers maybe got a little bit too much confident with the machinery, and that's why we saw these issues. Or maybe they just were a little bit too eager to make a good impression in the last race of the last week of the season. So either way, it was still a very good racing outing there for these guys, and I'm very sure they did have their fun in their Indy Pro 2000s out there today, Trevor.
Exactly, and then they get a week off before they launch into the next season, potentially, and speak after race number 2 with podium getter Leroy Coppedge. Leroy,
hello there.
you're going to be speaking to us until you got to the dotting line on the final lap?
I thought I would be speaking to you.
Well, from 21st on the grid to the podium, 18 positions gained. It just shows how difficult this track can be.
Yes.
Any other nuggets of wisdom or general thoughts for us?
Well, I'm actually kind of surprised to have finish in the top 3 after that first race performance. And it was amazing to suddenly find myself, especially there on the last lap. And I think, as you guys know, on this track, it is a matter of just trying to hang in there. Not great lap times, but I kept it on the track.
Yeah, you can say surprised to finish on the podium, but looking at how many drivers maybe dented the beautiful Armco around here, surprised to finish at all wouldn't necessarily be a wrong thing to say as well. You really kept it clean, which was so important and paid dividends in this race number 2.
It did, yeah. And I'm proud of that. It's a nice way to finish the season, especially because I had just, turns out during practice yesterday, I broke one of my paddles on my shift, so I had to shift to using buttons for shifting, and that was a little tricky, but I was able to do it, so I'm proud of that.
The first semi-automatic gearbox that McLaren were going to introduce was going to have buttons on the face, and then Mika Hakkinen said, I'd much rather shift with paddles, and that's kind of how they got paddle shifters. So you're really winding it back in time.
Yeah, I do actually like the paddles. It just seems more fun, like a race car that I might have driven when I was younger, so very cool. Anyway, thanks again to all you guys for all the work you do and helping support our program and all of our administrators. In fact, I kind of had a little run-in with Joel. I hope I did not run him off the track there on, I think, lap 1 or 2. But if I did, I'm going to look at the replay and find out later.
You've been a long-time competitor in this league as well, and what is it about 60-plus racing adventures as we wrap up a 19th season that you think keeps so many of these guys coming back?
I think probably more than anything, it really is the camaraderie. Even though I don't really like having voice chat on, so I don't do a lot of chatting with people. But I do get onto the blog and talk to people and that sort of thing. But I think it's mainly the camaraderie. A lot of guys that are very kind to the other racers. For the most part, we try to give each other plenty of room and that sort of thing, and that's very nice. What I like most is what I'm hoping is that the administrators next year will see their way to having not only a Super 70s, but a super or an energetic 80s, as I want to call them, because I'll be 80 next year. So I'm looking forward to that. But I doubt if that happens, actually.
Well, very subtle plug there, because I've just gone and looked, and I think you have absolutely wrapped up the Super 70s. So
yeah, I think so.
You don't even need an extra 80s category unless you just wanted to double up on the trophy. You're still going to have number 1 next to your name. So congratulations on that Super 70s championship.
Thank you for saying that, but that's probably not true. I think when John Morgan and Mike McCormick come back, they both set out this year. I think when they come back, at best, I can maybe get 3rd. So we'll see, though. You never know.
Well, congratulations to you on that Super 70s championship this season. Best of luck and health to you going forward, and hopefully we do see you for season 20.
All right. I will. I hope to be back. Thanks again for all of the effort you guys put in for us. We appreciate it. Bye-bye now.
There you go, Leroy Coppedge. What a delightful little chat, and he finds himself unexpectedly on the podium, Stefan, and it just goes to show 60 plus racing adventures. It's not 60-ish, it's 60 and all the way plus. You think you and I are still going to be commentating and sim racing when we crack 80?
Whoa, that's gonna be a tall order. That's still so far away. I don't even want to think that far.
How many new generations of Porsche Cup car between now and then? I mean, it's going to be crazy.
Well, the way it's going, we have had, 6 now? For 20 years, I think it's now, we have the Porsche Cup. So, if they go this way, we're going to have about 150.
I'm looking forward to driving the virtually scanned version of the Porsche 9930.2 Cup car, but that is going to be everything from 60 plus racing adventures here at the Nürburgring. As the drivers themselves will tell you, they really enjoy racing in this championship against the like-minded older drivers on iRacing. It's not just young kids and tech bros in their 20s on iRacing. It really does give a racing outlet to all these guys who've been so passionate and so involved in racing for many, many decades. Awesome to wrap up another championship of 60 plus racing adventures here on RaceSpot. Congratulations, season champion Steve Greenwood and Super 70s champion Leroy Coppage, and David Haynes, Stefan Schleifer alongside me, Hugo Lewis with the technical direction, cameras and production today, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching, and we'll see you in the future for more 60 plus racing adventures and other sim racing coverage.